Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Recap. So, the month of May is over, and it went exactly the way I thought it would. It started with a bang with Doctor Strange 2, and it ended with a bang with Top Gun Maverick, and everything else was just there. That's what I thought would happen at the beginning of the month, and that's exactly how things played out. Now, the box office was a little different than what I initially, thought would happen, but for the most part, everything here more or less matched my expectations. So, yay. Yeah. As usual, I'm going to compare my own personal predictions to what actually happened because it's just fun. So let's begin. We are kicking off things hot with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, the thing is, like when I made my prediction video for this movie, all I had to really go off of was the preview number, which was 36 million. I believe it was the eighth. No, it was in the top 10 biggest preview numbers of all time. So I was thinking, oh wow, this was gonna do insane. It's gonna do crazy. And I got a little too giddy with my prediction. And I predicted between like above 200 million, like in between, like I said, Black Panther and Last Jedi, in that range. I thought it would break the May opening weekend record. Well, that didn't happen. It opened with 187 million, which is nothing to sneeze at all. It's absolutely massive. In fact, no other movie this year should be able to take that spot. I don't see it happening. But yeah, it did a little worse than I expected opening weekend wise. It's mainly because its opening weekend was pretty darn front loaded. You see here had a 90 million opening day, which is great. Then it fell like 36%, then another 33%. So yeah, quick plummet as you see. Very comparable to say Black Widow last year. So yeah, that was a tad underwhelming, but still a massive hit. But those my total prediction of 500 million was dashed with its second weekend when it fell 67%, which is pretty terrible. That is in the same range as X-Men The Last Stand, the first Suicide Squad movie, Batman v Superman, Watchmen, X-Men Origins Wolverine, Green Lantern. So yeah, not a group you want to be associated with. But I mean, at least its hold was better than say a Dark Phoenix or the Suicide Squad or Morbius. I don't think any movie is gonna top Morbius when it comes to the biggest drop off for a comic book movie, at least a major comic book movie. But 67%, not good. But after that, it has managed to stabilize a little bit. It has stopped its free fall and is currently now at 378 million domestic, its domestic total. So at the rate it's going, it should reach 400 million. It'll at least reach that, so definitely be in the upper echelon of the MCU. It just won't reach my admittedly high expectations. And it's not going to make a billion either at the rate it's going, which I really thought this was guaranteed to make a billion, but it was just, it burned too bright for its own good. Had a great opening weekend, then it cratered the next, and the chances of a billion have more or less been erased. But still, we're talking a movie that's making over $900 million. Like, I don't see how that's a failure in any context. But yeah, definitely didn't reach my expectations. So, but it started the summer right. Started the summer on a strong note, something we haven't had in years. And for Sam Raimi, I didn't mention this. I don't know how I didn't mention this in my original prediction video, but Sam Raimi, this being his first dip into the superhero genre since Spider-Man 3, which came out literally the same weekend 15 years ago. And then 5 years ago, you had, actually 20 years ago, you had the original Spider-Man movie from Sam Raimi. Same first weekend of May. It's really strange coincidences. But yeah, I mean, at least it didn't go terrible. It was a big hit. I mean, it wasn't like the most well received Marvel movie in the world, but it wasn't like the worst received either. I mean, I thought it was all right. I thought it was pretty decent. But yeah, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, not as big as I thought it would be, but still massive, massive hit. And yeah, so that's it for that. Then after that, after Doctor Strange 2, things take a nose dive in week 2. So that was the 6th. Now we move on to the 13th. Two complete non starters in the form of Family Camp and Firestarter. So, Family Camp. Yeah, this movie had no chance. It had zero chance. And somehow it actually exceeded my expectations. I I predicted like $1 million. I thought it would really hit lower than that, but to my shock, it hit 1.4 million. So it outdid my prediction by 40%, which would be great. Except these numbers are so low that it doesn't matter. And currently it's at 3.4 million domestic. I think my total was like between 2 and 3 million. So it actually beat that too. So I can't even say yay because these numbers are absolutely abysmal. They're embarrassing. I mean, obviously, expectations were rock bottom already. I mean, look at this poster. This poster really tells you all you need to know about the movie. But yeah, my expectations were already rock bottom, and it only just ever so slightly got above that by like an inch. So it means nothing. The movie's still an embarrassment, still a bomb. I don't know why they released this theatrically. I will never understand that. And as I predicted, it was overshadowed by family movies that came out weeks before this one. Those movies being The Bad Guys and Sonic 2. So, yeah, families would rather watch those than this. What a shock. Well, these kids want to watch those more than this. Again, what a shock. So, yeah, I'm not surprised about this, but it beat my expectations ever so slightly. So, you get a pity yay. you get, so, I'm done with that. Next up, Firestarter. Oof. Wow. I mean, of all the main movies, this has to be like the biggest fail of the entire month. I mean, sure, there's Family Camp, but no one knew that movie existed. People knew this movie existed somewhat, so it's more high profile. It's a more high profile flop. So, Firestarter. Now, before I made my video on it, I thought it would open with like maybe 10 million. Then those reviews started coming in, then audience scores started coming in, and I was like, okay, that's not happening anymore. I'm gonna lower it by a lot. I predicted between 3 to 5 million its opening weekend, and what do you know? It did just that. 3.8 million over 3,000 theaters. That is embarrassing. That is just there's no excuse for this. I mean, sure, it was on Peacock as well, streaming on Peacock. So one could argue, oh, Peacock costed a few dollars. Halloween Kills was on Peacock, and that opened with nearly $50 million. So, what excuse is there? There's no excuse. You can't use the pandemic excuse either. There have been plenty of movies that have done well. I mean, when it comes to horror, Scream 5 opened within like around the same time as No Way Home's Dominance. That did really well. So there's zero excuse for this movie's embarrassing performance. And then right now it has reached 8 million, 8.2 million. So I don't think it's going to reach 10 because the thing is, like, its second weekend was actually surprisingly solid considering how horrible word of mouth was. And then that third week, it just died thanks to Top Gun Maverick. So that chances of 10 million are officially dead. Um, yeah. So I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, the thing is, I know this is based off the original movie from like 1984, but that movie wasn't exactly good either. That movie wasn't exactly like a underrated classic. No one even remembers that movie. I mean, when it comes to Stephen King movies, when you usually think of those, you think of Misery, you think of It, you think of The Shining, right? Those are like the one, Carrie. Those are the ones that immediately pop up. Firestarter never gets talked about when it comes to Stephen King movies, never. So expecting this to do well when nobody gave a damn about the original, crazy. So yeah, really, I shouldn't be surprised about how bad this movie did, but man, that's just ooh. Now, is this gonna permanently damage the Stephen King brand? No, I don't see that happening. I think this is just a bad project that never should have gotten greenlit, but it did. Hell, this movie was announced 3 months before it came out. I did a canceled episode on this when it got announced. It was like so short notice. Like 3 months is nowhere near amount enough time to announce a movie and then market it. There's no time for that. You have to do it like way in advance. And this movie, it seems like Universal, they just gave up on it, which is probably why they gave it the Peacock treatment in the first place. But yeah, Firestarter, an absolute embarrassment. Bomb of the month, easy. Um, and yeah, that's it for that. So yeah, the second week of May, not great at all, but that's typical for the second weekend of May. It's like a cursed weekend. Like, you rarely have a big movie come out second weekend of May. Sure, it can happen sometimes. You have like The Great Gatsby from 2013. You had Neighbors from 2014. Those did really well. Trying to think of some others. um Detective Pikachu, that's another one. Troy from 2004. Oh god. Star Trek from 2009. That's a really good one. I think that's it. Well, there's Bridesmaids from 2011. I think that's it, really. But it's just a weekend just filled with just complete failures. I mean, bombs like King Arthur, Legends of the Sword. Anyone remember that? I doubt it. There's that. There's that Poseidon movie from 2006. Speed Racer 2008. Um, what are some others? There's like some infamous ones. Hot Pursuit from 2015. No one remembers that. I can tell you that immediately. Dark Shadows in 2012. Like, it's just not a good weekend to release a movie. It's never good to release a movie the weekend after a Marvel movie. Doesn't work out too great. But anywho, yeah, that was the 13th. Now we move on to the 20th. Two more movies: Down Abbey, A New Era, and Men. So first, Down Abbey, A New Era. Now, I knew for a while this movie was going to do a lot worse than the first movie. That was guaranteed. First movie, obviously, the show ended, so the movie was built up as this like event for fans of the show and did really well. It opened with like over 30 million, made like almost 100 million domestic, 200 million worldwide. Like, that's fantastic. And it should have ended there, but they were like, no, we need more money. So boom, sequel. And here it is, 3 years, well, almost 3 years later. And in a in a drastically different marketplace to the point where like the old people are not showing up the same. Like the young people are showing up, the old people not so much. So yeah, my expectations were pretty muted for this. I predicted like 15 million opening weekend. I thought it would do like half as much as the first, and then like its total would be like 45 million. Well, its opening weekend it was 16 million, so I was right, there. The thing is, like its weekend was weird. Like it had a meh preview number, then it had an okay opening day, and then it completely crumbled Saturday. 35% dip. About as bad, just as bad as Doctor Strange 2, believe it or not. Which, I think we all could have predicted because this obviously has a fandom. Fans show up that first day, and then the movie just bleeds out after that. That's just how it works. And it only made like 16 million opening weekend, which is meh. It reached my expectations. And then the second weekend, oof, 64% dip. And you wanna know what's crazy about that? That was when Top Gun Maverick came out. Doctor Strange 2, a movie that shares a decent amount of its target demographic with Top Gun Maverick, that only fell 50%. So Downton Abbey 2 got hurt a lot more from Top Gun Maverick than Doctor Strange 2. Like, what? That's that is so weird. But yeah, it had a big drop off and is now after like a good 2 weeks, it's made 31 million, almost 32 million. So the thing is, although this type of movie that doesn't do too great over the weekdays, but over the weekends. But on the weekdays, it can do really well. That the target audience this movie has is the type that'll likely go to the movies midweek. So yeah, well, at least it'll do well there. But I don't know if it's gonna hit my 45 to 50 million anymore. It might reach 40, but I don't know at this point. But yeah, like I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, I mentioned Sex in the City too. That was like the perfect comparison to this. Like the first Sex in the City movie did great. Second one did not do as great because all that hype was spent on the first movie, and so you have the second movie. People were just like, "Why does this exist?" The same thing happened here. In fact, but the thing is, this movie actually did worse in comparison to like Sex and the City. Sex and the City retained more than half of its predecessor's audience. This is not going to do that. It'll barely do that. So, yeah, not great. Not great at all. I mean, I guess it wasn't super expensive. I think it only cost like around 40 million, so it's not going to lose that much money. But yeah, pretty underwhelming, I would say. But it's not a bomb. It avoided bomb territory because obviously Firestarter is just it's got that covered. But yeah, Down Abbey and New Era didn't do great. Next up, we got Men, which A24's next movie. And A24, after Everything Everywhere All at Once, after that became their biggest movie, you would think that their next movie would benefit a little bit from Everything Everywhere All at Once. You think it would, but that's not the case with Men. And with Men, I predicted between 3 and 5 million opening weekend, and it just hit 3.2. So I was right there, and my total prediction was like 10 million, which I thought would be reasonable, but like Downton Abbey too, it crumbled. Like it did crumble its opening weekend that Saturday. And then its second weekend destroyed, just like Downton Abbey 2. 64%, same drop. Now for this one, it makes a little more sense than Downton Abbey 2, but yeah, it's still very, very rough to the point where 10 million does not look realistic anymore. So yeah, I mean, again, like I'm not surprised about this. I mean, this is definitely the type of A24 movie. It's not like Everything Everywhere All at Once, where that movie can appeal to pretty much anyone. Like that movie had wide appeal, despite being weird as hell, and that's why it did so well. That's why it's continuing to do well. I mean, let's look at here. Everything Everywhere All at Once, despite being out for 10 weeks. 10 weeks, although it was a limited release for 2 of those weeks. Still ahead of Men. Crazy, and it's in less theaters too. Absolute insanity. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once has to be the surprise hit of 2022. It just has to be. So, but anywho, yeah, for Men, it's one of those A24 movies, those horror movies that really don't do well with like mainstream audiences. I think the cinema score for this was like a D plus, which is about the same as Hereditary. And at least it wasn't like It Comes at Night. Or although this is an A24 horror movie, it still fits here. Mother from 2017, that got an F. At least it wasn't as it didn't do as bad as that, but yeah, pretty underwhelming, pretty blah. I don't think this is gonna hurt A24 very much. I mean, again, they had their biggest movie ever last month in the form, well, it's in April, in the form of Everything Everywhere All at Once. They should be fine. This is just a a bit of a slip up, but they should move on, after this. So yeah, that was Men. And so yeah, May 20th, not great. So we started off really good with May 6th. May 13th was a disaster. May 20th was a bit better, still not good. So we got one more weekend left, and that's for the 27th. That could save the whole month. And what do you know? It did save the whole month. So we got the Bob's Burgers movie, and Top Gun Maverick coming out Memorial Day weekend, last weekend. So, yeah, let's first go over Bob's Burgers. I keep calling it Bob's Burgers the movie when it's called the Bob's Burgers movie. I don't know why I do that. Anywho, the Bob's Burgers movie. My prediction was between it was going to make 10 to 15 million for the 3 day, 15 to 20 for 4 day because it was a holiday. Um I knew this movie was never going to be big in the first place. Like the show, although it definitely has its fans, it's pretty niche compared to like other similar shows like say a Simpsons or a Family Guy. It's not as well known as those. It doesn't have a big of a fan base as those. And like sure, you could compare this to the Simpsons movie. I mean, it's an easy comparison, but this was never, ever, ever, ever going to match the Simpsons movie. That had 20 years of hype. That series was like the most iconic animated series of all time, besides the Flintstones. Like it was the most recognizable series of like the 90s. So even though it was off its peak by 2007, everyone wanted to see it. It was a massive event. Fox built it up as a massive event. And lo and behold, it became a massive event. Made 500 million worldwide. Opened with like 74 million back in 2007. So yeah, that was never within the realm of possibility for this. But it did match one of my predictions at least. It did in fact open between 10 to 15 million for the 3 day weekend, making 12. And just like with Doctor Strange 2 and Down Happy 2, it crumbled the exact same amount, the exact same percentage as those. 35% dip from Friday to Saturday, which again, not surprising considering the type of movie this is. Obviously, the fans are going to show up day one, and they trickle out after that, and that's what happened. And then the 4-day ended up being close to 15 million, off by a couple 100,000, but close enough to be a success. And obviously, this movie's been out for 6 days at this moment, so kind of hard to really judge its performance. I don't think its second weekend's going to be very good. I think it's going to have a drop off around 60%, I think. Because one, it's a post holiday weekend, and two, these declines here should really tell you that this movie is front loaded as hell. So, yeah, but this performance, it's not terrible. It's not the worst. I mean, it's doing about as well as that the Teen Titans Go movie from a couple years ago. So, it could have done a whole lot worse. It could have been an absolute embarrassment, but it did it did okay. It did okay. One of that's my verdict on its box office. It's done okay at this moment. It might reach that 30 million. It probably will. I don't think it'll go any higher than that. So this movie didn't do terrible, but didn't do great either. But I imagine it'll do really well when it hits Hulu. Because that's gonna happen. Give it like a month and a half and it will show up. So yeah, that's the Bob's Burgers movie. And now, last and certainly not least, Top Gun Maverick. Oh boy. Like Doctor Strange 2, I saw this movie's preview number, which was 19 million, which was way beyond my predictions. Like I thought it would do like 10 million previews. Did nearly double that. Shocked me. So because of that number, I got really giddy about its chances, and I predicted a 3-day weekend of like 170 to 180 for the 3-day and like 200 for the 4. Really should have lowered my expectations a little bit because that did not happen. It opened with 126 million for the 3-day weekend, and I'll find it 160 for the 4-day weekend. So it didn't reach my admittedly way too high predictions, but still, these are fantastic, fantastic numbers. Like before the weekend started, before those preview numbers dropped, I thought it would open between like around 100 million. I think that's the number everyone else had, around 100 million, 90 to 100. I thought that was reasonable. But then this movie like shot past everybody's expectations with that preview number. Then it's Friday was a little more front loaded than I thought. Opened like 52 million. And Saturday drop wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. 27 million. And then things got really interesting. Only fell 4% on Sunday. I mean, compared to other movies, the like literally the best drop here. Well, besides I guess Family Camp, but nobody cares about that. But still, for a Sunday drop, even for a holiday, that's crazy. And then things got crazier on Monday. Only fell 8%. 8%. Making 33 million on a Monday, a holiday Monday. That's one of the biggest Mondays of all time. I think, let me check. In terms of Mondays, it's number 5 of all time. Only movies that had better Mondays were Avengers Endgame, No Way Home, Force Awakens, and Black Panther, which was also on a holiday weekend. That is wild. That is absolute craziness. And then the next few days after that are also pretty crazy for like weekdays. 15 million, 14 million. And this is only after 6 days. In 6 days, it has made more than the original movie in raw dollars. So it's currently at 191 million. It will soon shoot past 200 million, shoot past 300 million. That won't take any time at all. And the most important thing is that this movie not only had It decimated Tom Cruise's opening weekend record. It doubled it. His previous record was War of the Worlds in 2005. That one was like 64 million. So this doubled that. But it had the biggest opening weekend, well, biggest Memorial Day opening of all time. It finally broke the long standing record of Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. That movie held that record for 15 years. 15 years. Like, think about how much has changed from 2007 to now. Think about that. That's how long it took for that record to be broken. And sure, many movies tried to break that record. Indiana Jones, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull tried. Didn't happen. Fast and Furious 6 tried. Aladdin tried. Days of Future Past tried. Hangover Part 2 tried. Solo, A Star Wars Story tried. I really thought that would be the one to break the record, but that movie, as you see here, it did horrible. Completely fell apart. But yeah, lots of movies tried, and I thought it was looking very doubtful. We'll see a movie break Pirates record, but Top Gun Maverick did it. It did it. It broke the record for the 3 day and the 4 day. Yes, and I know there's a little controversy surrounding that for the 3 day weekend because Pirates 3 here, it had these like separated preview numbers. It's really weird. It had these separated preview numbers. It was like 13 million, and so you add it to the actual weekend. So if you add those preview numbers, it's actually bigger than Top Gun Maverick by like $1 million. It's confusing. It's weird. But for the 4 day, I have to find it. 4 day. Yeah, it beat it. Even with that preview number, Top Gun Maverick is still number one. At least in raw dollars. Inflation wise, yeah, it's not. um, it's not number one. Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Lost World Jurassic Park, X-Men Last Stand, Indiana Jones 4 all did better in terms of actual ticket sales, but still very, very strong number. And I guess, oh, I went too far back. Oh no. Gotta go back. I guess this shows you that, Paramount, they obviously knew this movie would be a big deal. They were willing to delay it for 2 years because, as you see with this poster, this movie was originally, well, it was actually intended to come out in 2019, but then it got delayed to 2020 because of, like, they said, like, trying to film, like, complex action sequences. So a lot of people assumed it was going to come out in 2020, didn't because of COVID, and Paramount was willing to delay it for 2 whole years. They're willing to push it back again and again and again until they decided that the time was right. And it paid off. It paid off tremendously. They didn't dump this on streaming. They were like, no, we are putting this in theaters. People are going to have to watch it on like the biggest screen possible. That's what happened. And everybody wins. So, yeah, and also helped that people have been waiting for this movie for a long time because Top Gun, obviously, the original 80s movie, classic 80s movie, one of the 80s movies that immediately gets brought up in conversation alongside like E.T., Back to the Future. Trying to think of some other, I guess the Indiana Jones movies, Ghostbusters. It's brought up alongside them. So yeah, it took a very long time for a sequel to come out. And when it came out, it managed to appeal to both fans of the original and people who may have not seen the original. Like, it appealed to a whole lot of people. It finally brought back those old people that didn't show up for Death on the Nile. They kind of showed up for Downton Abbey, but they definitely showed up here. So that's fantastic. And yeah, and the way it's going, it's gonna do even better and better. Now, my original total prediction, I think it was like 400 million. At the rate this is going, it might hit that. It just might. If it can survive against Jurassic World Dominion, it should hit 400 million domestic. It should destroy once again Tom Cruise's record for his biggest movie ever. Because domestically, that record is held by War of the Worlds. That should be crushed by the end of this weekend. So yeah, craziness, absolute craziness, and Paramount. I mean, this year has been insane for them. They had Scream 5, Jackass Forever, Lost City, Sonic 2, and now Top Gun Maverick, all opening at number one, all doing really darn well for themselves, particularly this one. Insane. Insane, man. So yeah, congratulations to Top Gun Maverick. It definitely deserves its success. And yeah, we're in this on a high. So yay, the month didn't end in disappointment. And I didn't mention this in my original videos for these movies, but I found it really weird that Tom Cruise's last movie, Mission Impossible Fallout, went up against the Teen Titans Go movie, and now we see a similar situation here with a Tom Cruise movie going up against a cartoon adaptation movie. Weird, strange coincidences all over the place. I seriously don't know how that happened, but it happened. So there you go. And they say history can't, proof that history can repeat itself. So yeah, so that was the month of May. As I said previously, started with a bang, ended with a bang. Everything else existed. There was one real true embarrassment, and that was Firestarter. Besides that, everything was fine. Everything was just fine. So yeah. So this month is probably the best when it comes to like the ratio of success and failure. So, or at least relative success and failure. So that's good, I guess. But yeah, that's it for that. So that's the start of the summer season. Definitely got off to a much better start than last year. I can tell you that. Like last year, it started at the end of the month with Quiet Place 2 and Cruella, and here we are 1 year later. Got Top Gun Maverick already making more than Quiet Place 2 made total. I mean, that's not a knock on Quiet Place Part 2. That did really well, but Top Gun Maverick is just killing everything right now, box office wise. It's doing crazy numbers, and it's going to continue doing crazy numbers this weekend because guess what? No big movies are coming out. Nothing's really coming out until Jurassic World Dominion. We might as well talk about June real quick. I apparently this weekend I have movies to cover. I have to do Crimes of the Future and Watcher, two movies most of you never heard of, and that includes me. I gotta cover them. So stay tuned for those videos on Friday. But yeah, after that we got Jurassic World Dominion, which should no doubt print money. Then you got Lightyear, which should no doubt print money. And then we end the month with The Black Phone and Elvis. Those movies are pretty much trying to survive. And then we move on to July, which is a lot more crowded. But yeah, although June, it looks pretty barren, I think Jurassic World Dominion and Lightyear will make up for that. I think their box office will make up for that. Both should do really well. And yeah, so summer 2022 is off to a good start. Much, much, much better than last year. I don't even need to say anything about 2020. Like, summer season didn't even exist that year. Still not as good as previous years, but we are on the right track. We are going in a positive direction, not a negative direction. So, yeah. Anywho, yeah, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn on notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage with all previous recap videos I've made on the channel. Want to watch all the ones I made this year? You can start with it was like January 2022, and then February, then March, April, and now this. And eventually I'll do June. Well, June will come out beginning of July, after the first weekend of July, because that's a holiday. So I'll probably do it after 4th of July is done. But yeah, after that, obviously June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Then I do a summer recap where I go over the. I'm gonna bring back the winners and losers thing, because last year I did streaming and non-streaming. This year we really don't have to worry about that, so I can go back to winners and losers. um, and so yeah, stay tuned for all of that. There's also box office predictions where I predict box office for movies. I covered everything I talked about in May. Doctor Strange 2, Firestarter, Family Camp, Down Abbey 2, Men, Bob's Burgers the movie, Top Gun Maverick. Did prediction videos for all of them. So you want to watch those, go right ahead, go to the playlist, the 2022 playlist. And this tomorrow I do Crumbs of the Future and Watchers, so look out for those. Stay tuned for those. And there's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. Oh boy, I mean, I talked about Doctor Strange 2 several times, mainly because it was grouped in with a bunch of other Phase 4 Marvel movies. Like Thor 4, Black Panther 2, um, Ant-Man 3, the Marvels. It's grouped with those. So I talked about that several times. I talked about Firestarter once, and that was when it was announced to get a May release. Talked about Down Abbey 2 a few times, actually. Twice. Bob's Burgers, I talked about twice. And Top Gun Maverick, I talked about a few times. That was one of the first movies I ever talked about on Cancel. That was episode 5 when everything went to shit. And I talked about it several times after that because it got delayed several times. So yeah, for all those canceled episodes, and plus I just did one today where it was about like Secret Headquarters going to Paramount Plus and Man from Toronto getting its release date on Netflix. That's episode 129. If you want to find like all the other canceled episodes I made on the channel, all 129 of them, you can go do it, go binge it from beginning to end, just do it. So yeah, I encourage it. But anywho, yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.